Where are you from? Afghanistan. You run away from the Taliban? You leave your wife at home? And army? So why are you here? Why are you here? This is crazy, man. Hey, buddy. And you leave your wife at home in Afghanistan and you come to Ireland for milk and honey? You know that.
You're right, all. So I came across that clip earlier off Uncensored Entertainment. He's a funny guy. He's an Irish YouTuber. I think he lives in England though. To give him his credit for that clip, and I have to include that kind of sums up my theory. So you've got an Afghan National Army member living in Ireland in one of the hotels behind a gated fence, and so one of the comments says it quite well. Combat trained fighting age men by the hundreds of thousands, whatever could go wrong. And it, for those of you not aware of my theory, that I personally believe that they're going to be brought here for when the impacts of that procedure starts to kick in. The one that took place 4 years ago, when everyone was shuffling around with face nappies on, social distancing, hand sanitising, and the pokes in the arm were being promoted by people like this.
Terror. Iraq 2, the Fenton dossier. Mind and body blowing.
Iraq has chemical and biological weapons.
Those weapons of mass destruction got to be somewhere.
And Libby.
And obviously a bit of time later.
And the data on vaccination and the impact on the health of the country.
It's relevant for you to get poked in the arm for the health of the country. Don't forget, this is a guy who opened the floodgates up to the third world, and within 20 years, obviously not entirely just him, but he started it. So basically the water had been trickling through a crack in the wall from 1948 with Windrush generation, and when he got into power, the floodgates were open, wide open, and within 20 years, you know, my generation, the millennials, the world we knew in the 90s, it's gone. It's completely finished, you know, and it ain't going to get better in terms of demographics. So to put your health in the hands of someone like this, you know, with all he did with the Iraq War, with all he did with mass immigration to the UK, I'm sorry, but a really daft move.
People's objections, but at some point you've got to say to people, look, the evidence, not just from Britain but around the world, is crystal clear. There's no serious person disputing it, and to get vaccinated is actually part of your. It's almost part of your civic duty.
He's a slimy little shit, isn't he? Like they all are. You know, he reminds me of a car salesman trying to flog you a broken down car for £100 or something. You know, you're just trying to sell a dodgy product. That's what most politicians are, after all. They're just businessmen, aren't they? Someone put it quite well here. Not invading Iraq would have been your duty. It's all about the Iraq War mainly. But yeah, so my theory, to get back to the beginning with the Afghan soldier living in the hotel in Ireland, my theory is when that procedure starts to kick in, the one that lot encouraged, it will give the government an opportunity to bring in another 2020 style lockdown. Bear in mind, we've got an absolute tyrant in charge at the minute in the form of Keir Starmer, who's constantly in the headlines poking around trying to ban people smoking outside a pub or people saying offensive language inside pubs and so on. Massive overreach, but what do you expect with a far left government? But yeah, I think if they get the chance, they'll bring these lads out onto the streets to man checkpoints. They'll restrict your travel, because remember back in 2020, I personally carried on as normal. I didn't buy into any of it. You know, for some reason I seem to be aware not to trust any of this, not to believe in any of it, mainly because of the people who are pushing it, and I don't trust anyone really in the political world. And now more than ever, I think people are all starting to sing off that hymn sheet. So yeah, these people living in the hotels, I think if the government gets a chance, they'll bring them out onto the street. I don't think all of them are soldiers, but I think the vast majority of them are. I did have a look around for another video that I saw, and I think it was off maybe DJE Audits, I think it is, or DJE Media. I'm sure he was speaking to an Iranian lad outside one of these he was on the outside of the fence. Obviously, this lad was on the inside, and he was talking to him. And this lad was basically translating his language, the Iranian language, to English via his phone. And he's saying, "Yeah, I was a former soldier. You know, we got treated better in the Iranian army than we do here." And I think he was living in barracks in Dover. So there seems to be a lot of soldiers. It's not very often you see one who's grossly overweight, or they look like soldiers. And you've got to question, why are they being brought here? Well, is this the right article? Yeah, so here we go. So I come across this in the Mail today. The fit and healthy Brits killed by the Divok poke and families fighting for damages as Minister announces plans to change compensation rules. Well, I'm sure at the time they told you weren't going to get any compensation. And that should have set some alarm bells ringing in people. You weren't going to get compensation. That AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Moderna, they've made themselves non-liable. And that'd be the equivalent of driving off in a car, from a rental place. And they say, yeah, if anything goes wrong, it's not our fault. We haven't done any checks. We might have done some checks in it, we might not. Off you go. But I can't believe people went along with it, looking back on it all. But yeah, I'll leave the link below for you to have a look at. So this guy's collapsed in the bathroom. I think he took the AZ procedure. A man left disabled by the AZ poke seen by the Telegraph. So it is starting to kick in, I'd say. So he's given the poke in the arm April 2021, and obviously we're coming up to 4 years now. He's not been able to work since. And don't forget, safe and effective. It will kind of explain why I'm seeing ambulances all across the country on the roads. There's another guy here. I mean, 65, people do sort of die around that age, especially if you've had an unhealthy lifestyle, boozing and fast food, etc. But, everywhere I go nowadays, I seem to speak to people who've recently lost a relative. I mean, do you really think someone like Mr. Blair has got the interests of the world population at heart?
And you've got no health reason for not being vaccinated. You're not just irresponsible. I mean, you're an idiot. I'm sorry. I mean, truthfully, you are. I mean, because this Omicron variant is so contagious. If you're unvaccinated and you're in circulation, you're going to get it. And that's what's going to put, that is going to put a lot of strain on the health service. I mean, almost half the people in the ICU are unvaccinated, and then it's really important.
Good on them. They won't need to be worrying about heart attacks or aggressive big C. But yeah, I'm linking all this together in my brain, and I might be right, I might be wrong, but it has to be said, it does kind of link together. As I say, I think within the next year or two, I think that procedure will start kicking in. I think something I forgot to mention in my last video, which was quite good, I would say. The Deagle population forecast was set in 2025, where the world's population was going to drop by about half, half of its total, mysteriously. I don't know, I've got a feeling about next year personally. I think maybe this year things will start to get really obvious, and then by next year, because that would make sense actually, because I remember that Jeff O'Looney character saying that 3 to 5 years, and obviously next year will be the 5th year. So I've still got a feeling about 2026 everything would have kind of took its place. But again, this is all entirely speculation. I'm yet to see any real solid evidence in front of me of someone having heart problems in front of me, or it's all hearsay. I've heard of someone or heard of someone. That being said, I do know people who've died of the big aggressive C, in the mid-40s. There's someone I knew, used to work with, who passed away recently with the brain C. Early 40s. Again, whether or not it's got anything to do with this procedure, I don't really know. But you have, of course, got the New Zealand Prime Minister at the time. Was it Jacinda?
And the truth of the matter is, the evidence that vaccination works is literally, it's overwhelming. I mean,
And would you believe it, I've had to use my own video footage because this video of her, or him, should I say, that to me isn't a woman. There's even that footage where he's walking down the red carpet in a red dress and you can see his balls swinging around. Because a lot of these are inverts. It might be too crazy for some people who are new to all this stuff, but they're evil. They really are. I mean, look what they're doing and look what they've done. You know, all the wars they've created, all the hatred of each other because of mass immigration, where we've all been forced and squashed into urban areas without anyone's consent. They despise humans, and but anyway, this is the footage I managed to find.
Side effects that people experience with vaccines, which we all have come to expect, a sign that the vaccine's doing what it should. He did note that they appear to be of a lesser degree for the booster than, for instance, say the second. So,
yeah, that video, as far as I'm aware, I've checked Odyssey, I've checked Rumble, I've checked YouTube. You can't find that clip of her or him saying that anywhere. Just to add as well, she's been made a dame now, hasn't she, by Jimmy Savile's mate.
You basically see it. This is going to be like, well, it's almost like, you probably don't see it like this, the two different classes of people. If you're vaccinated or if you're unvaccinated, you have all these rights. If you are vaccinated...
That is what it is, so, yep.
stay local and do not congregate. Don't talk to your neighbours. Please keep to your bubbles. We know from overseas cases of the Delta variant that it can be spread by people simply walking past one another. So keep those movements outside to the bare minimum. Wear a mask. Otherwise, dismiss anything else. We will continue to be your single source of truth. We will.
Now, I don't know about you, but a woman that openly coerced and vilified her own citizens into medical procedures is not worthy of being honoured in my book. In fact, from what I know of history, we let people swing for doing something similar nearly 80 years ago as not only a war crime, but a crime against humanity.
Yeah, that's off. We got a problem. But yeah, just to finish on, because I've gone off, as I always do, on other random tangents. But to get to the point, my own theory, and going back to the beginning, I personally believe that these young men from around the world, from Africa, from the Middle East, from South Central Asia, they've been brought here for round 2, which will be the after effects of that procedure that people went along with in 2020 starting to kick in. And when that happens, I personally believe that they will attempt to bring in another lockdown. Just to back myself up for those who sitting there, if you are sitting there thinking, what on earth is this guy on about, that's great. You know, if you're new to the channel and you're not thinking this way, great. I'm hoping that it broadens your horizons. But here they are, Bill and Melinda Gates, another funny looking couple. Melinda looks more like bloody Michael Gates to me. But anyway.
Could have been ramped up very quickly in a few countries that have almost avoided the epidemic entirely, like Taiwan, New Zealand, Australia. You know, they took their experience and actually prepared, and so they moved a lot faster. So we, we'll have to prepare for the next one. That, I'd say is will get attention this time. Get attention this time. I'd say is will get attention this time. We'll have to prepare for the next one. That, I'd say is will get attention this time.
Yeah, so they sat there smirking, talking about another 2020 event. As usual, these people are amazing. They've got crystal balls. They can see what's coming next. It's incredible, really. But this is him talking again.
Prepared for the next pandemic.
So yeah, the next one.
We were not prepared for COVID-19, so we need to do better. And we need to be committed to make sure all tools get out.
But what a lying little shit, but what else would you expect? And he says they weren't prepared for C-19, even though, and you can all find this, I'm talking to the people who are new to this stuff, not the people who watch my channel regularly. You're already awake, you're already aware. I'm preaching to the choir here, preaching to converted, you already know. But to the new people to this stuff, They held an event in October 2019 of the with the World Economic Forum of all people, simulating a worldwide planned medic. You know, so they already knew what was coming back in 2019. They'd already got planned and prepared for it. Them Pokes in the Arm were probably already ready to go. If you haven't watched it, watch Channel 4's Utopia, which is a mysterious group of elites around the world who control governments, control the media, and they're preparing to depopulate the Earth down to 500 million, but via a mild planned medic, which will force people into taking dodgy pokes in the arm. So they're already talking about another procedure, another planned medic leading to another procedure. Just to add some extra in there for Mr. Phil Yates.
Is to medicines, and you know, is there something to worry about with medicines? That is, might some of them have side effects? Do we need safety testing? I mean, and we're taking things that are, you know, genetically modified organisms,
genetically
and we're
modified,
injecting them in little kids' arms. We just shoot them right into the vein. So, yeah, I think maybe we should have a safety system where we, you know, things that are, you know, genetically modified organisms, and we're injecting them in little kids' arms. We just shoot them right into the vein. So, yeah, I think
totally normal to be talking about something like that, genetically modified, and you can see the glee about shooting them into kids' arms. It's not normal, is it? Final clip that came to mind. This is him talking about the world's population and pokes in the arm way back. We're talking like 2015, I think it might have been.
First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
Right, he said lower. Okay. You can watch it again and again if you want, but he said lower. And that's enough on Mr. Yates, but for those who haven't seen them clips, there they are. They tell you what they're planning, what they're going to do via entertainment, or I think it's called fraudulent slips, where they'll just let things in there, or Duper's Delight, where they can't hide the glee. So hence Mike Gates sniggering when they're talking about the next one. Yep, so I've just gone back to the comments, and I just want to read a couple out. So this is from the couple who's one of them has passed away, courtesy of the jab, in her opinion. So someone's put here, I had to. My gut told me before each not to do it. I cried my eyes out during both. I was scared of what it is, scared of the what ifs for doing it and not doing it. Biggest regret of my recent life. My dad is 87, he had 4, still fit as a fiddle, so someone's obviously said, yeah, don't believe in it, even though there's a news headline saying otherwise. And a sort of a good side to it, people wrote there, I won't be having any more, that's for sure. So people have kind of wised up to what's gone on. So if it happens again, I think people will be wise to it this time, I hope. But I won't hold my breath because there's still people walking around with face nappies on even now. So that's it. Not my best video, but I've kind of covered it for anyone who's new to the channel. And something that is quite good now is with what I'm doing this year. My plan is to get around football stadiums a lot, which is obviously white working class lads. And they watch them videos where I visit their town or city to film their football stadium, or particularly like derbies is something I want to do. So like when it's local teams, because they're always big events, that lures people onto my channel to watch the build up to the game. I couldn't care less about the overpaid Africans and foreigners kicking a ball around inside the stadium. It's the fans that interest me. It's the build up. It's because that's a big part of the town, you know, to the locals. So it's the ordinary man I'm interested in, you know, supporting his team, you know, flying his flag of his city or town. That's what interests me. But that lures people onto my channel, and then obviously they come across videos like this, and it might make them think about what's going on beyond the realms of football. What can you do about it is going to be the obvious question for anyone who's getting worried or whatever about the potential for that. Well, for the time being, there's not really that much you can do. I'd say you can try and put pressure on politicians and councillors. Write letter, but they just talk shit. They're experts in just writing back a letter, long-worded, load of waffle. Doesn't actually get to the point, as we all see in the House of Commons when they're all jeering each other. But you could kind of, I suppose one thing you could do is go and have a look at these hotels as in film them from the outside, see if you see anything going on. So when the auditors go around and film them, they've caught them no ends of time doing dodgy drop-offs, and I've heard theories that there's been weapons and ammunition being dropped off. And be ready and talk as well. That's a massive thing. I'm terrible at talking. I mean, this is difficult because it's like talking to an answering machine. I'm sat here talking to myself, so I'm always umming and ahhing because it doesn't flow naturally. But talk to each other. Try and open people's minds up. So if these football lads come across my videos, talk to each other at the game. You've got the numbers as well. Like, I'm not saying go and cause problems at these hotels. Don't go and cause problems at these hotels or anything like that. But there's nothing stopping you kind of holding a protest, an organised protest, every week before your football game, and it kind of shows that the numbers are still there. People who ain't happy with it. Just spread the word that there is potential that this could be what's going on. You can already see that they're trying to push for another what should I call it now? Plan Medic. That's what I was going to use to try and beat the algorithm. They already seem to be pushing for another one with this HMDRC or whatever it's called. Whatever the next one is, the monkey flu or fucking monkeypox or whatever they come up with next. Bird flu, that was one. So they are planting seeds. They are poking around to see if we can get away with another one. But the comments are overwhelming that people ain't buying it this time. So who knows what they're going to try next. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. Hopefully that's given some food for thought for people who haven't thought of this sort of stuff. So that'll do. Cheers.